couple minutes, you guys, okay?
What's up, guys? Was doing great till I met a guy named Riaz. How's that for a great name? Riaz. So I'm very disappointed in my first name right now.
What's that? I know it's a boom, but it looks like a little guy. Look at him. I'm sorry.
Looks like a little pet.
Little guy.
What's up? I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll try not to answer one question with long-winded bullshit, which is generally what I do. Let's go.
So tell us about the idea of the show. What did it start for you?
I knew all these. I've known musicians my whole life. When I was a teenager, guys that I was close with became members of rock and roll bands in Boston, and most of them went on to be in bands for the last 35 years. Some of them very famous bands. So I was backstage a lot and got to witness a lot of the crazy egomaniacal behavior. And I wanted to do a half hour, and I thought at the end of Rescue Me this would be a new way to go, and I'd probably have a blast doing it. And then I found her. So hopefully, if it works, I'm just going to ride her coattails for the next 5 years.
I'll make sure not to wear a coat.
That's my dream.
Like I'm a grandpa. That was the worst joke ever. Sorry.
Can you talk about some of the rock stars that have influenced your characters?
For me, there's a couple guys I know that never made it. They were pretty bitter about it for a long time. So I based it a little bit on those guys. Because they still look like rock stars. They walk around the Lower East Side or in Brooklyn. You know, when you're not a rock star, but you look like Keith Richards, you're walking around with that outfit, you look kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I love the idea of a guy walking around with this outdated look. That's the most fun part of the show for me, is like my relationship with her, because I look so ridiculous half the time. And so to me, it'll be interesting to watch him have to learn from her how to behave as a dad, how to dress, and also
That'd be a funny episode, me dressing you like a dad.
Yeah, I know, changing my
dad clothes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, the font on the title is a bit reminiscent of some Sex Pistols type fonts. You know, I mean, then you've got Johnny Rock, which is a bit similar to Johnny Rock. Would you say that this almost is like what would happen if the Sex Pistols never took off? I understand it has nothing to do with that, but I mean, obviously it's a band, kind of a trash band.
Well, I suppose it would. I think Johnny Rotten, for me anyways, that band sucked.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's admitted that a million times. They were terrible, mostly because of Sid Vicious. He was great, I mean, just as a performer. And I thought Public Image, I loved way better than the Sex Pistols.
Sure.
And I think he's a really interesting character. I think he's way more interesting than Johnny is in terms of his opinion about being famous, because he was so famous for so long. But if you ask Johnny, the question of whether he would trade his life with Sid Vicious, like just to be famous for that 6 months that he probably would have done it when he was young. You know, he's desperate to be famous in the worst way, which is probably how it will end up for him.
Well,
Can you talk a little bit about the dynamic?
Hey, a whole new tier.
I thought I was tripping out.
I thought for a second I was like, wow.
Talk a little bit about the dynamic between you and Gigi and how you see it evolve over time.
Well, I mean, it starts off pretty one note and then it takes on about 1,000 other notes. We get invested and the relationship becomes very complicated, but it's funny too. I mean, we just tear each other apart.
Father-daughter, mentor-student.
Yeah,
We mentor each other in a weird way. I parent you, even though you're my father. You do teach me about rock and roll, but I don't have all the issues that you have. I'm clean and sober. You know, I never did anything, and he's obviously the opposite of that. So we teach each other. But I definitely feel like Ava and I run the show. His girl and I.
Yeah, there's no question.
We run that shit.
I think that's the lesson here. I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan, obviously a huge fan of Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. I always find it interesting. Keith Richards raised such normal kids, and he's been married for 30 years now. He's really he's a grandfather at this point. So it's really interesting to me to look at that guy and to see him from that side of it. So I think if the show gets to go on and continue, it's going to be really interesting what I'm going to learn from her and vice versa. But there's clearly the biggest lesson he's got to learn, which he kind of learns almost by the end of season 1. It starts to become clear that to himself he's never going to be famous. If anybody in the family is, or the band, it's going to be her. So the idea of her getting more fame and him being in a room with her while somebody else famous is in it is always going to be funny to me. Like if she's hanging out with David Bowie in the recording studio, what Johnny's going to do to blow that up and piss off David Bowie, even though he's like the biggest Bowie fan in the world, is always going to be funny to me.
don't expect any rock star cameos.
Well, I think I just gave up like my biggest one. He's a great actor. A lot of rock stars are actors, which kind of really fucking pisses me off. Dave Grohl and Greg Dooley on this show, they totally improvised. Joan Jett. I'm telling you, whatever you see on that show, it took me hours in the editing room to make myself look even slightly cool as a rock star. The thing I discovered, even with singing the Asshole song for all these years, and I felt like I could be a rock star, I can't. You have to actually be an unbelievably cool person to be up on stage for 3 hours.
I think arguably though, if you ask our cast, we're not bullshitting you. You're a very cool person.
Let me just tell you something.
You sell it.
Go watch Debbie Harry. And then
I can't compare you to Debbie Harry. You're very different.
Well, I'm telling you, it's a tough. You have to actually be cool to be a.
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, we're leaving now.
Goodbye, class
Bye, guys.
2015.
All right, I want that homework on Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, Jesus.